the Stinger and all that. They did a lot of man-print work for me, a lot of training work for me.
One of the problems with an in-house outfit like that is there's a tendency to find the answer the sponsor wants, rather
No,
than...
I don't think so. In fact, just to prove the case, the opposite. They gave up a lot of information at the time that when Clifford Alexander was the Secretary of the Army, that he wouldn't let them publish. He muzzled ARI because he didn't like what was coming out of it.
I see. See, he reviewed their output then.
Well, he reviewed it when it got in the press. It was
Oh.
anti-whatever he was intending to do in the Army.
It didn't
And,
muzzle it soon enough then, did he?
And so he said, you can't publish anything unless I give you approval. I didn't give him approval, so I didn't publish anything. Never was that the case when I was around ARI. I mean, I said, you have free license to publish any damn thing you want to. Incidentally, one of the things I set up over there is I set up the SLA Marshall chair for ARI, where they could bring in a body, they could bring in a guy off the civilian market. We'd pay him $100,000 a year or whatever to be a supernumerary at ARI. He had to produce something on his there. First guy we brought in was Charlie Moskowitz. So that chair, I think, is still alive and well over there. The other thing I did sort of interesting is I allocated people to the history, the Office Chief of Military History. Said you can go out and get yourself half a dozen captains, free gratis. I'll give you half a dozen captains a year. You can bring them in for 1 year internship. And from that you can begin to build some people that maybe will become historians for you. You know, down 5 years, 10 years down the range. Well, that program lives not, I don't know. But I mean, those kind of things I was trying to do to aid and abet ARI and OCMH and those kinds of things, because you have to help them. I mean, again, it goes back to the adage, if you don't tell them what to do and exercise them to do meaningful work, then they'll go up and do something that's not necessarily meaningful. But we were trying to get this whole thing going on aligning quality against weapon systems. That thing still went on. In fact, they just produced a report in 1991 called Project Able and Project Baker, which says, yeah, that's right, smart people do operate the Patriot, the Bradley, the Abrams tank, and the Apache helicopter better than dumb guys.
Is this done by ARI?
Yeah.
Is that classified stuff? Or
No,
is that...
unclassified.
Yeah. Well, a lot of combat commanders have complained that the people who end up in combat units are the least able, and the brighter ones are culled off at various headquarters as they come tumbling down the chain.
That is one reason that when we put together the Army College Fund, the Army College Fund was oriented on 1, 2, 3As. If you're a 3B or Cat 4, you could get it. It was also oriented on filling up the combat arms. So we got a large number of people, mental category 1 to 3As, join the combat arms for additional money called the Army College Fund. So immediately up guns, so you had drivers and gunners and loaders and all that who were smart guys. The best story I have about the quality of people is last year I go down to the Marshall Award thing. And I really didn't want to go down there, but Jack Murray asked me to go, so I went. I'm sitting across the dining room table from a kid who's in ROTC who's got a bunch of fruit salad up here on his chest. And I said to him, see you in the Persian Gulf. This is 1993 I'm talking about now, I'm doing a talk. See you in the Persian Gulf. He said, yes sir, I was in the Persian Gulf. Aha, he said, it's very good. I said, what'd you do there? So I was a tank commander when we crossed the LD in the 1st Tank Battalion that crossed into the Persian Gulf. Aha. Crossed into Iraq in the 24th Division.
This guy's in an ROTC uniform.
He's
right?
not in an ROTC uniform. I said, where are you going to school? He said, I'm going to Vanderbilt. I said, how'd that all work? Well, he said, I came back from the Gulf. I've been in the Army 7 years, since 1991. Right, is the end of the Gulf.
Right.
-7.
He's one of your boys.
No, that's right, -7 is 1984. And he said, been in the Army 7 years, and he said, I came out of the Gulf as an E7 because the platoon sergeant was wounded and I was made platoon sergeant, and he gave me a brevet ranked E7, retroactively stuck. It took. So I was a grade E7 at 7 years of service. You had the Bronze Star, you had the Purple Heart, an MSM. He said, when my battalion commander said it's time for me to get commissioned, I said, well, should I go to OCS? He said, no, there's this thing called the Green to Gold program, which I invented, when I was the chief of personnel. And he said, if you had 2 years of service, if you had 2 years of college that you'd gotten while you were in service, then you could apply, and the ROTC guys let you go and get your ROTC commission. So, well, where can I go to school? So my battalion commander said, you can go any place you can get in, authority to go. That you can get, they give you entry rates. And he said, so I said, I applied to Vanderbilt, and they took me. Vanderbilt's no slouch school. I said, what's your grade point average? What curriculum are you in? He said, I'm in criminal justice. I said, don't tell me you're going to be an MP. He said, oh no, I wouldn't be an MP, I'm going back in the Army. He said, I said, what's your grade point average? He said, 4.0. I said, are you married? He said, yeah, I'm married, I got 2 kids. He said, I'd take a pay cut from being an E7 to being an ROTC cadet. He said, I'm making it, my wife's working. He said, oh, by the way, last summer I worked in a congressional intern office. During the summer I had to do intern work, so I worked in a congressman's office. Said, help him draft a piece of legislation that's going to get it approved this year.
That's a wonderful story.
It's a terrific story.
And
Okay, so I said to this kid, I said, let me know how you do in Fort Knox when you go up there with the basic course. Meanwhile, I called Butch Punk, who's the commander of Fort Knox, said, you got a live wire coming up here. So I get a call from this kid right before Christmas. And he said, I wanted to report to you that I think I did okay here. He said, I got the Marshal Sabre for being the #1 guy in the class.
It's okay, yeah.
And he said, I was the #1 guy in gunnery. He said, I was the #1 guy in map reading, compass, and all that stuff. And he said, I was the #2 guy in maintenance. He said, I sort of let you down in maintenance. He said, I'm off to DealSec to be in a tank battalion. He's a product
Well, yes.
of our system.
He's a product.
What is the product system?
Yeah.
We got good guys to go in the combat arms. Then we changed the recruiting rules to get them promoted. Then we invented a system by which if they continued their educational aggrandizement while they're in the service, we let them transfer and go to the ROTC and get their degree out of college. We invented this program called Green to Go while I was at Desper.
What kind of, he didn't go to college on full pay and allowances then, did he?
No, he went to college on the $100 a month stipend and his GI Bill,
Okay.
plus an ROTC scholarship. He had an ROTC scholarship.
So that paid all his school.
Pays all his book fees. Okay, I gotta cut it off.
Great. Yeah, I didn't know about that one, Green to Gold, good. You've got to have 2 years going before you'll...
I think it's 1 now.
1?
I mean, if you're good at it, they let you drive on.